The views and opinions of podcast guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity or the state of Utah.
Today we're diving into digital marketing with Bryan Phelps, CEO of Big Leap. From its Lehigh headquarters, Big Leap empowers growth-minded brands to capture market attention, blending precise performance marketing with a unique focus on emotionally intelligent, journey-aware messaging. This strategy has made Big Leap a Utah success story and a national leader. Bryan has been at the forefront of the digital marketing evolution for decades, witnessing its profound shifts. We'll explore how Big Leap continues to innovate and what it means for businesses looking to thrive online, especially in Utah's dynamic ecosystem. From the Utah Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, this is Business Elevated, and I'm Pete Codella. Bryan Phelps, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Pete. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Share with our listeners what your connection is to the state of Utah.
Born and raised. So I was born in Provo, pretty much grew up in Pleasant Grove. I was a Viking there and graduated from PG High. Lived in Utah really my whole life. Only time I didn't was about 9 months up in Rexburg while my wife was finishing school. But even then, I actually commuted back to Utah every single week for my job. I had a great job at Exactware, a cool local software company. So I'm very connected here to the Utah business world and the Utah community.
What do you like to do in Utah's great outdoors?
Well, it's funny. I tell people this all the time. Born and raised in Utah, I've never skied once in my life, which is kind of crazy. I grew up playing basketball, had bad knees, not great for skiing and snowboarding, I hear. But I love golf. I love to get out and golf. We have some amazing resources here locally. Great courses between here and southern Utah. You get the full experience from the mountains to the desert.
Well, you're a prominent figure in Utah's digital marketing scene, brands like OrangeSoda and SEO.com. Why don't you talk about your journey and what inspired you to create Big Leap in 2008?
Going back, again, Utah ties, I went to UVU. I'm trying to remember if that's what it was at the time or if it was UVSC back then, but was going to school at kind of the same time SEO and digital marketing was starting to take off. So I kind of made the decision to focus on that path, the career path. And I mentioned at Exactware, which is a software company for insurance, which is totally unrelated to digital marketing. But that's where I met kind of my mentor in the space, a guy named Alex MacArthur, another kind of local legend that was the CMO for Purple Mattress and for Kizik Shoes. And he introduced me to the concept of SEO and WordPress and building websites. And so I was newly married at the time, trying to, figure out still exactly what I wanted to do. And I just started building my own websites and learning how to drive organic traffic from search engines to them and then monetize those websites with ads and affiliate networks. And just that kind of learning and testing and making a couple bucks here and there was super exciting to me. So I eventually wanted to do more of that. So I kept doing those on kind of my little side projects. And as you mentioned, I worked at OrangeSoda, which is where I followed Alex MacArthur to at the time, which was just early days of OrangeSoda, but helped run their SEO team for a handful of years there. Like you mentioned, went on to SEO.com and did the same for a time. And then, eventually had that kind of opportunity to kind of kick things off and go out on my own, try doing it a little differently. One thing I love about Utah, and then I think kind of spurred me to do that was I feel like Utah's kind of this perpetual underdog. Like no matter how many times we win awards for, best place to run a business, start a business, low unemployment, all those things. We've been doing that for years, but it still kind of feels like this underdog story. And I feel like Big Leap was that way a little bit. I describe myself kind of as not the most typical founder in a way. I'm a little bit more of an introvert and not, as a business, we're not super flashy sometimes. And so it was fun to try to build something successful that maybe was done a little differently, just by hopefully just focusing on doing great work and then kind of spreading and growing organically, which is how we got our start.
Where'd you get the name Big Leap from?
That's a fun story and not a super interesting story. It kind of works as a marketing agency, but my initials are BLP, Big Leap. It kind of ties together. And so I think it was even before the agency world when I was just building my own website. I formed the business back then and I was just trying to come up with something. And, it's one of those that's just stuck since.
Well, what types of businesses or industries does Big Leap usually partner with? What's your ideal client?
over the years, we worked with all kinds of businesses from, again, our start locally, where we worked with a lot of local Utah companies, a lot of the tech companies here in Utah we've worked with at some point in the past, like Domo and Pluralsight. Bamboo HR was one of my early clients. So we've had a lot of experience in that B2B space, but then we've grown a lot outside of Utah as well. And we work with some great brands like Avis Budget Group, who owns Avis Rental Car and Budget Rental Car. Groups like VisionWorks, Honest Company, and direct-to-consumer e-commerce brand. And so we work in a lot of different industries across a lot of different types of companies, from, again, small to big too. So we really focus on, again, what we do, and we can apply that really to all these industries. One in particular that we've just had a lot of success with is kind of these enterprise level local campaigns, like an Avis car rental. They want to show up and someone searches for, LA car rental or Chicago car rental, and we help them do that in all of North America.
What percentage of your book of business would you say comes from Utah businesses?
Probably about 20% Utah these days. Again, for a long time, it was probably pretty dang close to 100%. Just, getting started and getting our name out there, and obviously our home base, network as well. And so we still love the Utah community. We participate in a lot of the different events here. There's just so many cool brands. I was thinking about it earlier this morning because I'm wearing a Asher Golf shirt, a local company. Half the stuff I'm wearing is from local companies. You can have a purple mattress. Like, I think you can almost run your entire life off of Utah brands right now. There's so much out there.
That'd be a fun reality show to stream on Netflix.
It's fun to see how it's evolved. We're known a lot for the tech space. There's kind of a big direct-to-consumer component here as well. I probably could go like a full day in everything I eat even. There's a lot of, CPG type products coming out of Utah as well. I bet you could just kind of live and breathe Utah for at least a day.
And it certainly makes sense that your client base has grown. I think the internet is a great equalizer, and it allows someone from anywhere to do good work, right? And doesn't really matter where your clients are, where you are these days.
Yeah, and we've, kind of post-COVID, even as a business, we have our home base in Lehi, an office there, but we primarily work remotely. And we have a few people, probably about 10 or so, that work outside of Utah as well. But we've enjoyed that in a weird sense. There's some aspects, of course, we miss. We bring everyone together twice a year to make sure we have that in-person time. But it's given people an opportunity. And again, another thing I just love about the Utah business world, I feel like has such a great balance of all things, and not always at the same time, right? Like there's, days, especially when you're building something new, you're going to probably over-index on the work side a little bit. But if you look at a lot of people here in Utah, just because of what we have access to, there's just so much opportunity, obviously, to do what you need to do at work. You have your family life, but then that outdoor world, whether you ski or golf or hike or mountain bike. And so that's given our team a lot of opportunities to do that, working remotely and maybe shedding that commute time. They're able to spend a little bit more time enjoying Utah.
Yeah, I think the commute is a big driver of more productivity for remote work. For some folks, for other folks, being remote means distractions and they don't stay as engaged.
Definitely can. We do have some people that prefer being in the office, getting out of their home, kind of having that line that they can cross of going to work, coming home, and be able to kind of shut things off or turn things on when they get to work.
Well, your approach combines marketing performance with emotionally intelligent, journey-aware messaging. I'd love for you to talk about how you customize that for a new client. If you've got a new client you bring on board, what does that approach look like?
We start with, there's 7 steps. I won't bore you with all that right now, but we start with our clients by first trying to understand who they are in their messaging, in a sense. Who are they trying to attract, and their audience? Who's their audience? Where do they spend time online? Where are they influenced as well? We really have found, and this isn't a new principle or anything we even created, but at any given time, there's only about 5% of your potential audience that's in market, that's shopping for what you do. 95% of your market isn't of your potential market isn't really in shopping mode. And so over the last 10 plus years, 10, 15 years, there was kind of this quick surge in performance marketing where you could just really focus on that 5%, and you put $1 in, the Facebook machine, and you get 5 back or whatever, those numbers are. But that's just changed a lot in terms of shopper behavior, in terms of competition, ad costs, things like that. It's made performance marketing as kind of a single channel really difficult. And so we're trying to help our clients understand, honestly, going back to maybe basics in a sense of how building your brand influences your brand marketing and your performance marketing as well. And so how do we influence those people in the 95% instead of them going to Google and doing a search for the best HR software, they're going to bamboohr.com to just, because they already know you, they already like you, they already trust you. And so we're trying to help our clients kind of, look at the big picture, the kind of full funnel in a sense, and help them do their best to build that relationship with their audience, with their preferred audience, from the get-go.
I'm going to go off script and ask you a question. You don't have to answer it if you want. How do you define the return on investment for a brand? What's the value of a brand?
Well, you can get really hypothetical there in some ways. There's a quote that Warren Buffett, it's in one of his filings or something that he put out there, but he said it's the number one moat, and something he looks at when he's investing is brand, which is kind of wild to think about in some ways, right? Because again, we've lived in this performance marketing world where people just want to know, okay, you invested X, you got Y. And again, that's worked for a long time. It still works too. Not to say that that's dead by any means, but we're seeing that as you're building that brand, it's even helping your performance metrics, right? Because you're more likely to get that click and that conversion, which is going to make your whole funnel look better. So we're helping clients, measure things down to that level of, hey, here's what your ROAS was on pay-per-click marketing or, your SEO. But the reality is buyers' journeys have just changed dramatically. I mean, they have honestly for years, but it's most things aren't really standalone channels anymore. People don't just go to Google search and buy, right? They go look and see, they look at content. They may get something now in AI from ChatGPT that they're thinking about. They might see your display ad or whatever it is. There's so many things that work together. So we try to break things down individually to give us kind of this indicators. But ultimately, we want to look at that full picture to kind of see how much are we spending on marketing, what's that generating as a whole, and then try to understand all the things that influence that are kind of in the weeds.
I'll tell you what I think my economics professor would say for my MBA program at the U. He would say the value is whatever someone will pay for it.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a component, I think, I'm trying to remember if this was part of that Warren Buffett thing. I think it was, but he had some kind of quote, and I'm sure I'm missing it here a bit, but he basically said, if you can't raise your prices 5% without everybody bailing on you, you don't have a brand. They don't have any kind of connection to you if a small price increase is enough to send you away. So yeah, there's lots of definitions of brand out there. We're just trying to help our clients. We're still a performance agency at the end of the day, but how can we help our clients build and then use their brand to help on the performance side?
Yeah, focused on digital marketing tools, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Big Leap gets lots of accolades. You've been featured on the Inc. 5000 multiple times, best company to work for by Utah Business Magazine. Talk about your company philosophy or maybe culture. What has helped you achieve that kind of success being a Utah-based company?
There's so many great companies here in Utah, and there's not one right way or anything, I don't think, to build a company. There's amazing different examples, and they've all been on, on this podcast too, of how they've done it. I think our way has just been just a little different in a sense of, I've never been a big proponent, and I kind of mentioned this earlier on, the office politics stuff. Kind of our message to clients sometimes is, hey, we're going to do awesome work. We're going to show you that. Well, we're not the flashiest. One of our biggest clients for years always told us hey, we love what you're doing. It's awesome. He's like, you're better in person than you are on paper, which is kind of funny thing. It made us think a little bit. He's like, you don't do a good enough job showing your wins. And so we've made improvements there, but we're not hey, marketing agency, it's going to come and wine and dine, take you to events, do that kind of stuff. We just want to focus on doing great work. And hopefully those results, kind of speak for themselves. And that's, I think, kind of who we are as a culture too. There's not a lot of politics and things like that at Big Leap. And so I think people just didn't appreciate being able to come in, do good work, be recognized and appreciated for doing that, and not feel like they have to do that plus play some kind of, corporate game thing to be recognized and to get that kind of, recognition and rewards and bonuses and promotions and things like that.
Bryan, I'm one of the leaders in the Utah Women in Leadership Project, a Bolder Way Forward movement, which helps support women and girls in the state of Utah. I'm curious to know if there's anything specifically that your company's done with some of your women employees to give them flexible work or other things like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something we love. About half of our leadership team is female. Last time I looked, we were about 60% female, 40% male across the whole company. And so it's something that's always been important to us. My wife worked at Dentrix, local Utah company, Henry Schein, before we had kids. And it was a great company, but it was an opportunity, where once we had kids, she decided she wanted to stay home and work. And I came from my mom growing up working. She worked at the Orem Public Library for 30 or 40 years, been retired for a while now. Had a working mom. And it's just always been incredible to me how someone can do all that, be a working mom. We have some amazing women at Big Leap. And so I can't say we have this exact policy in place, but again, we try to just treat people how we want to be treated in a sense. And so that does show up in some of our policies in a sense, but I kind of look at it from in a way of like, if it was my wife or my daughter in the future working at this company, how would I want her to be treated in a sense? And so we ultimately, I think, just try to do what's right by people, and just a great workplace for women. So yeah, we have, I think, a great, policy with maternity and things like that in place where women at Big Leap hopefully can feel like I don't have to choose between this or that. And working from home has been a huge benefit, especially, to our working moms. We've had many first-time moms that we've been able to help kind of ease back into the workforce once their maternities, kind of ran out in a sense, which has been great for them. And it's only been possible, I think, because working remote allows all people, but working moms especially, to have a little bit more flexibility that they need.
Agreed. And, it's not a one size fits all, and different times of our lives, work and other commitments have different needs. So just having that flexibility and the opportunity to keep working and contributing when you want to, I think is awesome.
It's been great. We've seen this too, and I'll give props to our head of HR, Carrie Kratz, who is frankly kind of helped to lead Big Leap in this way. But she's especially looked for these opportunities now in the last few years since we've been remote to find ways to get working moms who have had incredible training and experience, but can't commit to, full-time hours and going into an office. And so with our HR and our finance teams and some of our marketing roles, we just have some incredibly talented and trained women that are able to contribute, but have a little bit of that flexibility that they need to do it all. Some of them does, 6 kids still at home that they're able to do all that, which is, like I mentioned before, kind of unfathomable for me to comprehend.
Well, hopefully that's because their partner treats it more like a partnership and contributes to household things, and they're not alone in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll be right back after this short break.
Looking for the best place to grow your business? Welcome to Utah, ranked the #1 state for economic outlook 18 years running. Make the move to join global leaders in advanced manufacturing, aerospace and defense, life sciences and healthcare, software and IT, and financial services. With a young, educated workforce, smart tax incentives, and an unmatched quality of life, Utah is where innovation meets opportunity. Learn more at business.utah.gov.
So you founded Big Leap in 2008. It seems like from a digital perspective, digital marketing even, so much has changed since then. And now we've got artificial intelligence, which most likely impacting your work. Just maybe talk about how things have changed, and then tell us, what does artificial intelligence bring to the future of digital marketing?
Yeah, it's a great question. Honestly, we're just probably in the first 10% of it, I think. So it's hard to say exactly what that looks like. And I think it'll evolve quite a bit. But for us, there's kind of 2 sides to it. There's the one side that's probably facing almost every business of just the work that gets done, right? There's, people are using it to create content or to automate and improve efficiencies. And of course, we're doing that at Big Leap, kind of regardless of what industry you're in. We're doing that to try to just see how can we create better outcomes ultimately for clients. And so we're helping our team members. We have generally a younger workforce, I'd say on average, than a lot of companies. And so we're trying to help our teams understand how they can utilize AI to just become better, faster, more, right? So we're not looking at AI as how do we replace people and cut costs and do that side of things. And we have a lot of content writers at Big Leap. And so it can be easy if you're a content writer over the last couple of years to be a little nervous, but we've just seen our content team really step up to see how can be just more efficient potentially, but just produce even better content by having access to more research, to more data. We don't rely on AI to fully write content because it can, but of course it requires a lot of fact checking and things like that to make sure everything's accurate and whatever it may be. But we're ultimately just trying to help our team understand that, if you kind of went back in time, it's like if you were, I don't know the right year for this, but if you were maybe early 90s and whatever your career path was, home computing is becoming more popular. It's like, it's going to help you do more and be more efficient. It just changes how we do things in a way. And I think that's, in my opinion, hopefully the right outcome for AI is just how is it kind of that next wave of acceleration in a sense to what we can be doing. So I'm sure there'll be roles just like there were when, the internet became what it is, that there are some roles that probably just may not make sense anymore. But I think it's those talents and skills those people have that can be applied elsewhere where they can. So that's, I think, a big chunk of it, of kind of AI world. For us, there's this other side of search and user behavior and customer behavior and how people find products essentially online. So for the last 20 years, we all, go straight to Google and we ask it all of our deep questions and searches and things like that. And that still exists. There's a lot of speculation and talk out there. And ultimately right now, Google's still reporting there's more searches done every year than ever before, than the year before.
I think people are spending way less time on Google and more time in social platforms. And I'm seeing a lot more ads for things like on my Facebook feed.
Yeah. And so it's become, I think that's what I was kind of hitting on earlier. You can't really do one channel, I think, and really be as successful as probably you want to be. It is like this surround sound effect, right? If you just have one speaker behind your ear over here, like you're going to hear something, but it's not ideal. But yeah, that surround sound effect, right? Where you have Google search and you have ChatGPT and you have Facebook ads, you have organic content. When you're getting hit with all that stuff, hopefully at the right time, we think timing is a really critical component of all that. Because someone could be sending me ads for skis all day, but that's not the right timing for me. Maybe I'm going to learn to ski someday in the future. So that's where the magic happens, I think, ultimately, is when you're connecting all those. And so when we talk to clients, it's tough, right? Because if you hear that, it's like, well, I don't have millions of dollars to spend on everything. And so our focus and approach is, okay, well, let's understand your audience first. Where do they spend their time online? And let's prioritize, those efforts. And so we don't have to be everywhere and try to target everyone all the same time. Like, it's just, we're not, if you're Coca-Cola, sure, go for that. That's their audience. For 99% of our clients, there is a better defined audience. And so we can take all these components of brand marketing, performance marketing, and then zero it in on that audience and where they spend time online and make it more efficient so they can actually do that and not spend millions and millions of dollars a month in marketing.
I also think there's a trend toward browsers that hide details about the person surfing the web. I could name 2 or 3 of them. How does that trend influence digital marketing? Because I'm guessing that you're not able to gather as much information about the person or may not know what they've been searching for, what products they might be interested or have more affinity toward.
Yeah, it's been kind of the history for the last 10 plus years of just data. I think most people, if you don't live in this world, would assume like, oh, digital marketing, it's all digital, right? You should be able to tell exactly where that person went and came from. But because of a lot of privacy rules and other things, Google's kind of, in particular, has been pulling back on that. First with like organic search, like they used to show us exactly what keyword someone typed in and then purchased a product. And that's been gone for a long time. And then you get into, the paid ad side. And now it's kind of a black box, a little bit of their AI, right? Of we're going to just tell us who you want to target and we'll do that. So you lose a lot of data. So I think it's probably not the popular thing to say as a digital marketing agency. And I think this has been reality for a little while, but because of what you just described and a lot of privacy, I just don't think attribution is good as people think it is. Like people make some big decisions off of attribution models of, hey, here's exactly where people came from. But I think, like you said, it might only be 50% of reality of your data, of what's trackable. And so it can be this indicator, I think. But we're kind of proponents of, let's look at that. We track that. We report on that to all of our clients. We use it for our own marketing. But people, I think, have over-indexed a little bit on data-driven decision-making, right? That's been like the buzzword for many, many years. I'm not saying we shouldn't look at data or do any of that. It's super important. But I think we've forgotten a little bit about the roots of marketing and not just gut feel, but understanding your audience and knowing like if I'm doing the right things, it's contributing to the bigger picture. So again, that's where we have to look at things individually. And I think it can give us these indicators, but we have to probably look at it a little bit more holistically to make the right decisions.
Talk about common digital marketing mistakes. What advice would you give to a company to avoid some common pitfalls?
Yeah, I'm trying to think beyond what some of the things we've talked about. Again, I think for most people getting started, I'm always surprised, I guess I'll start with this one of piggybacking on what we're talking about with data. A lot of companies don't have like systems in place. So we talk to companies regularly, and as new companies come to us, or existing companies coming to us for the first time, that's where we often start the conversation is, hey, what platforms do you use? And we often find that a lot of them don't even have like a CRM that they're using. And so we talk to them about, someone fills out a form on your website, what happens next? And sometimes they're like, well, it comes to the owner's inbox, and then when he gets to it, he'll forward it to a sales guy, and like 3 days have passed by. And so digital marketing is important, but if you don't have that foundation in place of your processes of, okay, what are you going to do when you start getting more traffic, sales, leads, whatever, if you don't have those pieces in place, you'll find, and you'll get really frustrated that I've tried SEO, I've tried paid ads, like nothing's working. And it's possible that, it could have been done better, but often we find that you don't have the right systems in place to take advantage of that traffic or leads or whatever it is that you're kind of optimizing for, even, e-commerce on that front too. How do you make more out of that? 'Cause most e-commerce brands will spend about what they make to generate that customer. And so they really have to make money by future sales or referrals, things like that. And so having all those pieces in place with, your CRM, email marketing, your customer experience, I'd say is a prerequisite really to really diving into the marketing side. So it's something, again, new businesses or just smaller businesses, they think, oh, I just need more leads. And they do. And obviously that'd be helpful. But if you don't have those other places, it's kind of like a leaky bucket, right? You're pouring a bunch of water in and you're not getting the most out of it as you can.
And I like your point about systems in place. There probably isn't one system that's going to do this for you. It's probably a network of several.
Yeah, absolutely. And getting back even to the AI world, there's just some pretty incredible things that you can do with that in terms of, the speed, efficiency, and personalization now to make things feel pretty real. We're not big proponents of like faking real conversations with AI. We look at how can it enhance and just give you access to the data and stuff like you need more often. But a lot of different ways to approach that. But I think at the end of the day, it's just looking at that customer journey and making sure that you've plugged as many of those holes as you can predict, right? And that's where we help clients a lot, is we've seen that for 18 years of all the possible holes that exist out there. But the reality is every business is kind of unique too. And there can be one new one that pops up. But if we can get 90% of those out of the gate, that's going to make all that marketing spend a lot more efficient.
Are there any new trends that you would like to highlight that we haven't talked about?
It's a world we live in, but it's kind of interesting as an agency. We sometimes kind of talk about ourselves as like the anti-trend agency in a way.
You're tried and true.
Yeah, we really are. We come back to that a lot. There's kind of the day-to-day stuff, and that's where I think the trends live. But at the end of the day, going back to brand again, I think if you have that kind of brand, you're able to take advantage of a trend, but also survive a trend as it fades out. So people, maybe someone that just starts a new company understands this trend well, they jump on it. But if that's the only place they're driving customers and their brand, eventually these things all come and go, right? Search will change. It's been around for 20 years, but social's changed, of course, a ton. And so we, again, kind of joke about being kind of the anti-trend agency, and we try to refocus our clients a little bit more on that brand component. Is your brand kind of living in the mind of your consumer, regardless of whatever platform people use to discover products? Again, whether it's Amazon or AI search or whatever it may be. So we try to take that step back. Again, from a trend perspective, probably our biggest focus right now that's impacting our clients is that AI search world, where it's shifting a little bit. People are seeing still a lot of search, but less clicks going to websites, and so it's going to be pretty common and normal for a lot of businesses to see a decline in traffic. But what we've seen so far is that doesn't mean an exact correlation with decline in business from that, because I think one of the things that's shifting right now is as marketers, we've had this opinion or this strategy of we just need to get people on our websites no matter what, like just get into the website, whether it's ads, organic, whatever. And now that's happening, but in lots of other places. So people are getting information about your pricing or your reviews on sites like G2 if you're a software business, or in ChatGPT. And so there's the start of it, it's the consumer, the end of it's the brand, but everything that's happening in the middle is changing a lot. And so people are still looking and searching and trying to buy things, whether it's products or services or software, but how they're getting there and where they're spending their time is shifting quite a bit. So there's still plenty of opportunity out there for brands to drive conversions, but it's going to look a lot different for how people find you, and then how they learn about you, and how they ultimately convert to a lead or a customer.
If you were giving advice to an entrepreneur, a new business, what are one or two kind of foundational principles you'd give them for online marketing or branding?
I think even starting kind of more on that brand side, but applies more to digital marketing now than it ever has, which is that aspect of really knowing your customer, the persona, the audience, whatever it may be. And people have said that for a long time as it applies to like your product and building it for them. But it's, I think, even becoming a bigger aspect from a digital marketing perspective, again, because you used to be able to just bid on keywords and then drive customers, and again, still opportunities there, but understanding, your customers and where they spend time online, going back to what we just talked about, they may not spend as much time on your website, but all the stuff in between where they're learning about you or your business, that's an opportunity for you to be in that conversation ultimately. So really, again, understanding that persona, trying to keep it, I think, fairly simple. We've talked to brands sometimes that have like 15 personas, and that starts to become pretty unwieldy. So we recommend a couple, try to keep it simple and concise. But there's also this aspect of, again, knowing the customer, but trying to build something unique. And we've seen this, I think, in the last few years, especially for marketing agencies, but also product companies. Instead of trying to build the HubSpots and Salesforces of the world that kind of apply to everybody, how can you build something that really focuses on a smaller audience and a smaller group, and be the big fish in a little pond in a sense from that? Again, that's what I guess a better way to summarize everything I've said about the marketing side is how can you spread yourself thin across every possible channel out there, but be the big fish in the small pond of where your customers, your potential customers, are spending time online.
You've been in the space for so long. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how well you think Utahns may utilize the internet and social media, and how that perhaps translates not just to, personal connectivity or social networks, but to doing business. Like, do you think that the people in our state understand the technology and use it and have any kind of advantage? What are your thoughts in that regard?
I've lived in Utah my whole life, so maybe I don't have enough of an understanding of people outside of Utah, but I think we do have an advantage. I mean, even going back to the early SEO days or the 2010s, Utah was one of the biggest hubs of SEO in the country and the world. Like Seattle had a big kind of area there. There was a big software company called SEO Moz back in the day that was founded there. And so there's kind of this hub of SEO there, but Utah has per capita or per, business, more probably agencies too that exist out there, digital marketing agencies. And I think that's come from what you're describing, and just people that understand it a lot better. And so, yeah, my hunch would be that I think we do have an advantage there, kind of unique advantage in how we utilize the internet, our understanding of it, our history with it as well. We have, of course, the great universities here. We've talked about that for 15 years of just that advantage we've had as a business, being able to hire some really incredible kids coming right out of school from at least 3 schools closest to us: BYU, UVU, University of Utah. We have BYU, Idaho kids quite a bit as well. But I think we have that youthful vibe, which brings a lot of the new internet trends and techniques and tactics. And because a lot of our youth like to stay home near family and stuff like that, I think that has perpetuated our business economy, our technology, as well as our internet economy here in Utah.
All right, Bryan, what's the best part about doing business in Utah and being a part of Utah's business community?
Something that I've loved about it and very much benefited from myself is because Utah has this culture of creating, of building. It's created this system that's just created these generations off of it. So we talk about this a lot in the digital marketing world, is if you talk to most digital marketing people today or founders from agencies, is we can all kind of trace our roots back to a couple of agencies. So OrangeSoda was one of those, SEO.com was one of those. And it's been something that these early founders, different groups try to recognize them. And we probably could do more to recognize some of these early founders from Utah's economy, but it's incredible to think about all the businesses that have been created because of them too. And again, it's kind of like getting into like a family tree, but it'd be a company tree kind of thing to kind of see what are all these things that have been created. And that happens, of course, because they've created great companies and it's created these training opportunities. But all these founders I know that kind of were some of these early guys are just the greatest people that want to help the next generation on as well. I generally feel. I mean, there's so many of them and they're very busy, but they're so approachable too. You can reach out to the Ben Petersons of the world and James Clarks of the world and reach out, and you often will get a response. And again, they're busy, may miss one here or there, but they're just eager to help and give advice and help the kind of the next generation continue to build here in Utah.
We've been speaking with Bryan Phelps, CEO of Big Leap. We appreciate you taking some time to join us on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Appreciate it.
Here is a quick update from the Economic Opportunity Office for the week of July 13th, 2025. The Rural Communities Opportunity Grant pre-application is now open. The grant empowers rural communities to take responsibility for economic development planning. The pre-application, due August 29th, leads to a consultation with GOEO outreach managers and grant administrators. The official grant application will open on September 15th. To learn more about any of our updates, please visit business.utah.gov.
Thanks to our office marketing communications team for their work on this episode. You can find and follow us on social media at Business Utah. Please feel free to email us with feedback or episode suggestions at business@utah.gov. The Business Elevated podcast is published by the Utah Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity. I'm your host, Pete Codella. Thanks for listening.